What's everyone's first opinions on the game? My initial reaction is that the game does a lot of brand new things that Monster Rancher doesn't really do, like, you know, before this game. A lot of really interesting stuff. The way the drills are set up is really cool. This whole invader system is neat. I like the territory bonuses. The more you do training in a specific area without letting it, it almost appreciates, and you have to like keep going there to like maintain your authority over the territory, and you get extra bonuses for it. I think that's really cool. The anger meter is pretty sick. We don't really know what the downsides of anger and all that stuff are yet. We got a lot of stuff to figure out in that sense. Errantry actually seems worthwhile. Yeah, Errantry is fantastic for gaining stats now, when before it was like just text, nothing else. Though to be fair, that's really only the case in Monster Rancher 2. In Monster Rancher 1, you go on training specifically to gain stats, and if you get a tech, that's cool too. How is getting monsters? It's very simple. You got keywords, you got NFC stuff you can put in. NFC, not NFT. Near field communication. The stuff that makes amiibos work, and your tap credit card, all that kind of stuff. Because there's a ton of old Ultraman NFC cards, and so they're like, hey, let's give people a reason to repurpose those. I thought it was going to be kind of lifeless, but it's honestly not. There's a lot of personality in the monsters. There's a lot of interactions you can do. You can call them over and talk to them. I would say there's not as much personality as there is in the Monster Rancher games. I don't think we're going to see anything in this game that's as cool or as adorable as Zahn walking around with his altar images in Monster Rancher 3, or Koropendera walking around Monster Rancher 3 where they're all standing on their hind legs walking together. Like, that's the cool, cute spectrum. I don't think anything on here is going to hit either end of that or come even close, but what I've seen so far, you know, it's pretty endearing. But yeah, that's a really interesting way to play the game, though, is that if your monster has high anger and they enter battle, they get the bonus of starting with 80 guts instead of 50, which is really cool. But they also are more likely to do foolery, which is, you know, obviously bad. So there's a little bit of a trade-off there. For competitive play, I think that's going to be an interesting thing. Do you have your monster at high anger? Is the foolery chance worth it? You know, we'll find out over time. Traits are amazing. Being able to give this guy a cookie that makes it so when I push back my opponent, it poisons them. Status effects seem pretty cool. There's no battle specials as we know them. You can actually get a cookie to give your monster grit, which sounds like it's going to be gotcha hell. Everyone's going to be grinding for that. But other than that, like, I'm really enjoying the new battle system and all that stuff. But yeah, you can talk to Tommy Hamburgers. Look at that. It brings his anger down. He looks pleased. How's he feeling? Seems to be growing up. Seems a little on the slim side. They say you're really kind. Oh, well, that's nice. He says I'm really kind. So happy we got this game. It's pretty sick that we got this game, yeah. So those are the bonuses. There's way more dynamic options in battle. Movement seems really difficult to pull off in battle. Like, moving back and forth in the arena is kind of a pain in the ass. They give you options to overcome that, but there's a cost attached to it. So, you know, you get more options, but it's better than it was implemented in Monster Rancher 4. We have techs that seem incredibly bad. So I went into this and I'm like, you know what? These numbers probably aren't Monster Rancher numbers, because this seems like the worst tech I've ever seen in my life. And then we found Mochi later, and it has the exact same stats for Pedal Swirl as it does in Monster Rancher 1, or Monster Rancher 2. And that's already a bad tech. But the fact that all the stats like line up properly makes me think that it is actually ported 1-to-1. Not all of Mochi's techs are. Mochi has a bunch of new techs. This is terrible. This is maybe the worst tech I've ever seen in any Monster Rancher game. Just, it's actually, I'm very happy we got this tech because of how bad it is. It is a novelty. 25 guts for D damage and E accuracy, and no real withering, low critical hit. Incredible. Incredible. Do I like the game? I actually do really like the game. My biggest gripes are the tutorial is incredibly cumbersome. I think if you're completely new to the series, which most people will be, because, you know, you're taking in all the Ultra Kaiju people who were not necessarily Monster Rancher fans before, and you kind of need, like, Monster Rancher doesn't spoon feed you anything for better or for worse. This game definitely does. Also, for better or for worse. If you have a lot of experience with the Monster Rancher franchise, it's going to feel a little bit tedious for the first little bit. Yeah, if you haven't played it, I feel like it's probably necessary, to be honest. Performance issues are kind of pathetic, I'm going to be honest. The frame rate is, again, genuinely funny. The frame rate is like the cut loose of frame rates. This shit is terrible. You're lucky if you get more than a couple of minutes at like a consistent 30 frames a second. You're definitely not going to. Even on the ranch, it's slowing down occasionally. This is like the easiest thing for it to process, and it still can't do it. Switch problems? That makes me think it might actually be releasing on Steam sometime in the future. Because why would, like, I understand the Switch has really shitty limitations, but if this is the only console you're releasing the game for, then you would probably spend a little bit more time optimizing it, right? Whereas if it is built with portability, not like Switch portability, but like the ability to port literally to another console or Steam, most likely, you have to worry a little bit less about that, because you need to be able to make a game that functions on different platforms, and that's when you end up with stuff that has really bad frame rate issues. So I have a feeling it's probably going to release for Steam at some point, or they built it with that in mind as a possibility. But if they didn't, and this is all we're getting, the frame rate it's actually abysmal. It's not enough to make me not want to play the game, but there's definitely times where it's like, dude, what the fuck is this? Like, what's going on here? But other than the tutorial and the frame rate, I've enjoyed every other aspect of this. I think it is really solid. I think combat is great. Training seems really fun. There's a lot of different options. There's way more to do in this game than there is in Monster Rancher 2. We'll see if it ends up being like a Monster Rancher Advance 2 thing, where Monster Rancher Advance 2 added a ton of features to Monster Rancher Advance 1, and all of them are like kind of half-assed. This doesn't feel a half-assed. This feels like a labor of love, and I've been really enjoying it. So those are my initial thoughts. What about everyone else?